Welcome to the Half the Sky Women in Leadership series. I'm Sabrina Ho, the CEO and founder of Half the Sky. Today we have Audrey Kuah, the Managing Director of Dentsu Aegis Network's first global R&D center. Audrey has over 25 years of experience in marketing, business, digital, advertising, and media.
My role is the same, the similar aspects, so like running a team. I would say not even relearn, it's actually learn new because I have zero, I have to, it's funny, when I was given the job, obviously I did not say I have zero experience, but I actually had no experience in computer science, nor the data science kind of world and stuff like that. So without that, I said the first 2-3 months when I first came on the job, every night was like I was in school. I'll be reading all these papers, like I borrowed computer science for dummies from the library, right, to just get the terminologies and all of that. So you actually, I say in the work day, you still have to be that team leader, that team head, setting the direction. But then in the evening, you have to quietly, go into a corner and actually study. You actually have to study, yeah.
And how did you find back then the learn new process during those?
I think it was both. It was extremely exciting because, to have the opportunity and privilege to learn new things is, I think, always an honor, right? But also very, very scary. A good friend of mine asked, "Oh, why would you go from knowing everything? Nobody ever knows everything, but being experienced in some field, and then suddenly step down to zero again, right?" And I think my answer to her was, "But if you don't do that, right? It's very personally." You actually don't feel yourself growing. You always strive, in every moment to be as authentic as you can, right? Express empathy when necessary. Be as genuine and fair-minded as you can. But I think more importantly is to always still stretch and have ambitions for people. So I always say that just because you have empathy and you are authentic and genuine, it does not mean you do not have demands of people. You must have expectations, very high expectations, and as long as the agreement is that both of us, have equally high expectations of each other, right? That to me, I think is where you actually get excellent work. Perhaps in a male leader, in a more traditional definition, these kind of expectations are more easily accepted. Perhaps in a female leader, there's a misguided expectation that maybe the empathy aspect needs to be higher than the rest. But I've always said that's not the case, because in the end, if you're a CEO of a company, you stand in front of your shareholders, and you have to deliver your results. At that point in time, I would argue that your stakeholders it's quite material to them whether you're female or male. Yeah, so that's where we have to be careful as we groom young females to drive and lead the world, is not to get distracted by what a female leader does and what a male leader does.
If you don't mind sharing with our audience, what are your weaknesses and fears, and how did you overcome them?
I tend to just jump in. And then I will realize too late that I'm afraid of this, right? But then it's too late. You kind of have to sink or swim. So I choose often to swim, okay? My parents would say I'm a little bit foolhardy because I get very easily excited and drawn to new things. So I'll just go, right? And then I don't really care about anything else. So a good example is in the mid-90s, I had the opportunity to go to Burma to work. And in the mid-90s, Burma is a cowboy town, right? And there was still a lot of military rule, etc. I had the opportunity. I just went, awesome, great exposure, travel through Burma. Fabulous, right? Yeah. I go armed with my Lonely Planet guide and my trusty tin of Milo, very important, you must always have Milo, and a bit of my clinic skincare, because I suspected I wouldn't get clinic skincare. I just went, and my mom, my family, my friends, they're all like, "Where's Burma? Where is it and what is it, right?" And for me, it was just the most like super exciting. I just didn't pause to go, "Oh, should I do it? Is it the right thing? What's going to wait for me at the end? And all of that."
Wow, you're fearless.
I don't know whether I'm fearless. I think some people actually call it foolish, but it is what it is.
And Audrey, what advice you would give female professionals who are entering into the workforce? That what do they need to do to be a leader just like you?
Think, speak up, which is why I say think first. Think, formulate your thoughts, have clarity of thought. Because that drives, that inspires, that gives you the confidence to be able to speak up, right? Because you are then able to speak with confidence, with substance, with backups, and you're not just kind of shooting off your mouth. But I think speaking up is very important. I remember there was a discussion I had, and the whole thing is about finding your voice, your own voice. And one of the panelists said, a member of the audience said, but sometimes we need, you can have people who will speak up for you, you have people who will back you up. And I said, absolutely, you want to work in environments where you do have that. You have people who have your back. You have people who take your interests to heart. But the challenge is, that's not something you can guarantee forever and ever and ever. You may find yourself at some point working in an environment, in a team, in a culture, where you may not have somebody who will speak up for you, who will have your back, which means you actually have to do it for yourself. And more importantly, you have to do it for your team. Okay, so that's equally important, right? So your ability and your courage to be able to stand up and speak up, I think that's quite important. And that's something to formulate for yourself, right? And it has to be in a voice that is true to you. So you cannot put on somebody else's voice to try and do that. So that's where you learn to, take time to learn who you are, and how you can speak up in a way that's true to yourself. And then that's where you're genuine and you're authentic. So you don't have to shout, you don't have to raise your voice, don't have to do any of these kind of things. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. With a growing skill gap, how can female executives stay relevant within the technology space?
Well, number one, read a lot. So that's actually a easy, okay, I won't say easy, but it's a convenient way to stay up to date, okay? Read. I don't think, actually that's something I learned from an ex-boss of mine who is a voracious reader, right? Every time we bring him to a meeting, he will have read up about the client, the industry, the new challenges, and then in the meetings he will talk about it. And then I go, how do you keep up, right? He said, just read. You just have to read, right? And I think that's the part that we perhaps underplay, but the way to keep up, like I said, step one, read voraciously and read diversely as well, okay? The other thing is, today living in a lot of the cities that we live in, right? Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan and all that, conferences galore. And often they are free, they tend to be now very good quality, attend, right? Take some time out and attend some of these things, because if you're a little bit stretched for time that month, when you sit there and you listen, you automatically get information, right? And then you can store it to reflect a little bit. I would say those are really the only two things. Read and expose yourself, yeah.
And Audrey, your work revolves a lot around artificial intelligence, machine learning.
It is extremely fascinating. This field is fascinating. And when you work with a team, and I'm very fortunate and very blessed to work with a team that I have, when we see things being executed through machine learning, automation, and all of that, I sometimes just sit there and really quite marvel at the fascination of technology, of a simple code, right, that can today go out and like in a piece of what we're doing, the team has created a product that can actually create campaigns just based on learning from machine learning techniques past 30 days data. Can actually go out and create campaigns, learn every day, optimize, improve.
I remember last time we sat down for a chat, you told me something about left-handed mug.
Oh yes.
Share with us a little bit.
Oh no, I think it was just a very funny story I heard, that there was an image recognition algorithm, and the way you train any algorithm is to feed it lots and lots of the same information, right? So we get very, very good at detection. And the funny thing was they kept feeding images of right-handed mugs. So it was very good, excellent. And then at one point, somebody accidentally flipped the image. And then the algorithm started to fail, okay? And so when I heard that story, the lesson I learned was always be the left-handed mug. So that you are actually the spanner in the works of a machine learning your pattern. So if you live a very pattern life, machines learn that very easily. So the opportunity is to live a non-patterned life. The machines cannot follow. Yeah, they just can't.
You mentioned something, it's still in my mind for a very long time. You said something like, transform when you do well.
I have to credit a long time ago, I was working on a piece of business and they had gone through a massive internal transformation. Okay? I remember asking my client at that point in time, why would you do this? It was very painful, you know, it was disorienting for the marketplace, for employees, and it was a lot of pain organizationally. And they were doing very well at that point in time, right? So I just didn't understand. So I asked him, I said, why would you do this now? Why would you rock the boat? And he gave me an interesting point. He said, you know, business is vicious. If you do not transform yourself, if you do not hurt yourself when your times are good, and you know, you get complacent, if the market forces change on you, that's where it gets really pressurizing. Because now you don't control the timetable, you don't control what you can do, right? It's the market forcing you to change. And in that moment of pressure, you may make a lot of wrong decisions. But now, where the things are still going good for us, we're already seeing signs of a bit of a slowdown, a bit of a complacency in our organization. We recognize some of the challenges, so we're actually doing it now, where actually nobody has told us to do, right? We just want to do it to ourselves. And then you control timing, you control the plan, you control execution, and you control the narrative.